Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Wednesday evening, September 20, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so let's just take a look at the US Climate Prediction Center's Global Tropics Hazards Outlook for the next 3 weeks. We can see that for the time period September 27 to October 3 and October 4 to October 10, we still have activity across portions of the main development region, including Africa, where they're expecting to get some greens that represent some above normal rainfall, and some reds with whites added. That means some form of tropical cyclone formation, whether it be tropical depression, tropical storm, or even a hurricane for that matter. Well, we can see that for the area south of Jamaica, we have some browns that represent some below average rainfall. So we shall see exactly what unfolds with that for the next couple of weeks. We know that what the US Climate Prediction Center shows sometimes is not set in stone, so it's just a waiting game at this point. As it relates to what the US National Hurricane Center is showing for the next 7 days, we can still see that we have Hurricane Michael right there across the northern section of the North Atlantic. That's expected to continue drifting towards the north-northeast. It's right now packing winds of 90 miles per hour and it's moving at a speed of 18 miles per hour. We can see that we have an area of disturbed weather that's expected to develop sometime during the next 7 days to the southeast of the United States, maybe affecting portions of the eastern coast of the US. We shall see exactly what unfolds with that. And we still have that area of possible cyclone development across the main development region, which now has a high chance of possible development as it moves westward to west northwestward over the next 7 days. According to the Hurricane Center stating, a tropical wave is currently located a couple hundred miles southeast of the Cabo Verde Islands. This system is expected to merge with another disturbance located a few hundred miles to its west in a few days. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive for gradual development, and a tropical depression is likely to form late this week or this weekend, while the system moves generally westward at 10 to 15 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. So it's just a waiting game at this point. Something is definitely going to be developing from the system as it moves towards the west and west northwest. It's just for us to stay updated just in case it makes its way into the Caribbean, or if it actually does what the other systems have been doing and make it out to sea instead. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see that we have the tropical wave right here closest to Africa to the southeast of the Cabo Verde Islands, and we also have two more tropical waves to the west of that across the main development region. And we can see that even better on the visible satellite images showing all of the cloud cover across the main development region. We even have a tropical wave right now affecting portion of the eastern Caribbean, bringing some amount of rainfall to the Windward and Leeward Islands today. We can also see that we definitely had in on some amount of afternoon convection taking place across sections of Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, even sections of Costa Rica, Honduras, and Nicaragua. We'll be talking more about the weather across the Caribbean later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's posts on our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook pages. So in yesterday's posts, considering that we didn't post a video to our YouTube page, so if you aren't following our other social media platforms, you need to do so right now. We posted and we made mention that we would have received some amount of afternoon rainfall on Wednesday across sections of some central and western parishes. And we know the central parishes, we're talking about the parishes in the county of Middlesex, so St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, and sections of western parishes, Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, and with the occasional afternoon rainfall spilling into sections of Kingston and St. Andrew, even although that's referred to as some eastern parishes. And what ended up happening? A post was made on our social media pages highlighting the infrared satellite images showing clouds bringing some isolated thunder showers across sections of some mainly central and western parishes, but we do indeed see where we had some of that spilling into sections of Kingston and St. Andrew during Wednesday afternoon. And we know the sparkling white dots represent some amount of lightning flashes, if not lightning strikes. So we definitely gotten on some amount of afternoon rainfall for today across those spots. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see where we indeed had that cloud cover coming in from the east. Then we had those clouds becoming cumulonimbus clouds during the daytime heating, and then the high cold cloud tops being pushed off out into the atmosphere, even being pushed out towards the east, whichever direction the upper level wind is blowing them off to. And we can even see right now that on the infrared satellite images, majority of the heavy weather associated with those afternoon thunderstorms have now died down, and the thunderstorms have collapsed right back to normal. So it's definitely clearing out as we speak. We can see that there's nothing going on the Cuban Doppler radar images right now. Only a few scattered showers still left over from today's afternoon weather to the west of the island. And we can also see that on the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours by the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, we see where we indeed had that rainfall across sections of some central, western, and even eastern portions of the island. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can say we have 29 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and as the night progresses, the temperature should be getting lower. 25 degrees Celsius is what's expected across Montego Bay tonight, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can still see some amount of oranges that represent up to 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, and we can see that on the key at the right hand side, and we see that for both the Euro and the GFS, and this is valid for 1 p.m. on Thursday. So we're definitely in for some more above normal temperatures across the island of Jamaica for tomorrow. We're still in the month of September. We usually receive up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit for our average temperatures. So we know that 90 degrees Fahrenheit is about the equivalent of 32 degrees Celsius. So if we should be receiving up to 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for tomorrow, it should be anywhere from 32 to 35 degrees Celsius at most. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see that we have a lot of moist air across Jamaica. Only a few patches of yellows that represent some amount of dry air across the south, central, and eastern Caribbean. We know the dry air is represented by the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And we can see that we have the driest air across the northern section of North Atlantic between Hurricane Nigel and to the southeast of Nigel right there. Not to mention the Saharan dust. Wherever we have those browns, that's where we have the most robust plumes of Saharan dust. And we can see majority of it over the main development region for 2 p.m. on Thursday. Not so much across Jamaica at all. As relates to the wave forecast for Jamaica for tomorrow, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS are still showing those darker shades of blues. And when we take a look at the key, the darker shades of blues represent up to 1 meter wave heights, while we have the lighter blues across the northern and western portion of the island that represent 0.5 of a meter wave height. And that's due to the fact that the winds are going to be strongest coming in from the east for tomorrow, and that could be averaging anywhere from up to 10 to 15 knots, while we can see that we have the least amount of winds across the western and northern portions of the island. Not to mention the fact that we're going to be having that air piling up across sections of some central and western parishes again, even sections of some eastern parishes, maybe Kingston and St. Andrew again. And we can see it represented by those darker shades of blues. That's where we're going to have that air piling up. So we're going to have those cumulus clouds again becoming cumulonimbus clouds with that diurnal convection, that daytime heating. So something similar to what happened today. And with the upper level winds coming in from the north, that's definitely going to be favoring more of that afternoon convection to the south coast of Jamaica. So definitely some rainfall in store from maybe Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland, maybe even spilling into sections of some northern parishes. Either way, we can see the blues that represent rainfall on the Euro model, and this is valid for 2 p.m. on Thursday. What does the GFS show? The GFS is showing something similar, even some greens in there that represent even more intense rainfall, especially across sections of St. Elizabeth and Manchester. So we're definitely going to be getting in on some rainfall, stretching from anywhere from Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, even sections of Westmoreland. And we can also see some of this rainfall spilling into inland areas or southern portions of some northern parishes, so southern St. James, southern Trelawney, southern St. Anne, even sections of southern St. Mary, maybe even spilling into the western portions of Portland and St. Thomas. So we shall see exactly what unfolds with that. If we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast for both the Euro and the GFS small, keep in mind that these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Thursday. We do see that we have the rainfall expected across those very spots that we just mentioned, sections of mainly central and western Jamaica spilling into sections of some eastern parishes. But as it relates to the rainfall totals, we see where the Euro is a bit less robust than what the GFS is showing. The Euro is showing up to 0.42 of an inch of rainfall for the totals. The GFS is showing up to 0.51 of an inch of rainfall for the totals. And we're indeed grateful that we're going to be getting in on some amount of rainfall for tomorrow. We're in the month of September. We're in a primary rainy season. All the rainfall that we're getting right now is what we're used to for this month. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get to put some kind of dent in the hydrological drought that we're experiencing. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see where we indeed had that afternoon convection across sections of Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Eastern Caribbean, sections of northeastern South America as well. So Suriname, Guyana, Eastern Venezuela, sections of Colombia as usual, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean for today, we can see where we indeed had that rainfall stemming from about 1:30 p.m. today. Even up to this point, we still have some amount of rainfall taking place across those spots. So we indeed saw where we had that rainfall across sections of central and western, especially western Puerto Rico, where we see those reds and yellows that represent some amount of heavy rainfall. We know the greens represent anywhere from light to moderate rainfall. And we can see that even right now, we still have some amount of rainfall still affecting portions of Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Kitts, even sections of Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines still getting in on some amount of rainfall at this time. Even as we speak, we have a huge rainfall burst going on across sections of Barbados for tonight, and they're definitely going to be getting in on some more for tomorrow. Sections of Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago definitely getting in on some amount of rainfall from that tropical wave for tonight. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can also see that rainfall that we just mentioned on the satellite images for sections of the Bahamas, Florida, Cuba, sections of the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, sections of Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and the Eastern Caribbean. As relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we can still see that we have up to 3 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures, stretching anywhere from the eastern to the western Caribbean, and we see that on both the Euro and the GFS malls for 1 p.m. on Thursday. Taking a look at the SAR and dust forecast, we do see some slight browns that represent some amount of hazy weather brought about by the Sahara Desert for the Eastern Caribbean for tomorrow, but it won't be that noticeable one bit. The only time we see it being that noticeable is when we have those darker shades of browns, and majority of that is across the eastern portion of the main development region, not to mention sections of Africa at this time, or valid for 2 p.m. on Thursday. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that for the most part for the Caribbean, we're only going to be getting up to 1.5 meter wave heights for Thursday. And that's due to the fact that the winds will be coming out of the east, averaging 10 to 20 knots at most, especially the far south of the Caribbean, so to the far south of Jamaica and Hispaniola, where we see even those slight yellows that represent up to 25 knots. As it relates to the rain forecast, we're definitely in for some amount of rainfall, and we can see both the Euro and the GFS malls showing the same thing, considering that these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Thursday. It is showing 3Z on Friday. When calculated, that's actually 10 p.m. on Thursday. So we definitely see where we are going to be having some amount of rainfall in store for sections of Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, sections of Puerto Rico. We see those yellows, we see those reds that represent some amount of rainfall. We see on the key on the right, definitely going to be in for some amount of rainfall anywhere from the Leeward Islands southward. The US and British Virgin Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, Guadeloupe, Dominica, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, even areas south, the very areas that are getting rainfall right now. So French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama especially. Look at those darker shades of purple that represent even up to 3 or 4 inches of rainfall. Maybe some isolated flash flooding taking place there. Even sections of Costa Rica, sections of Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and the Yucatan Peninsula are definitely going to be in for some amount of rainfall for tomorrow. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS are showing something similar in terms of the rainfall totals. I know that when they're showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.